So hi folks, no intro today, straight to the point. This is the second video, probably the first one I'll upload, but it's the second video in a sequence of at least three, where I'm just going to talk about the Air Manager panels that have been built for the IXEG 737 in X-Plane 12. The website, the product page, gives details of the exact versions of software, whether it's X-Plane, IXEG or the Air Manager Beta that you need. But what I wanted to do, in lieu of producing a user guide, which to be honest I hate doing, was just produce a video where I talk through, in this instance, the main features of the various panels and show you the instrumentation, just give you an idea of what is included. So we'll start at the top with the overhead panel. Here we go. The overhead is split into three on my screens. And let me just scroll you through. So we have the rear overhead. We have the top of the main overhead. And then we have the lower part of the main overhead, including, for example, all the exterior lights. Split into three so that it's much more convenient. Of course, if I had a TV or if I had three screens, then I could just show them all simultaneously and life would be great, but I haven't quite got the funds to do that just yet. Here's hoping we win the lottery. So just to show you how this is set up, for the overhead I actually just have a set of two buttons on the left hand side of the screen that either take you down and they just cycle round. So when you get to the bottom you go to the top again, or when you get to the top you get to the bottom again. And that was for simplicity. I looked at being able to scroll it, but to be honest, when you're sat there in the sim flying the aeroplane, all you want is a nice simple positive mouse click or button press. Of course, if this was touchscreen, then everything would work with a press, with a finger touch. If I just change X-Plane to nighttime, you can see here that this panel is night lit, and the lights on this panel are tied to the lights in X-Plane. You can't see it, but they are tied to it. And of course I've got Knobster enabled here, so you can see me using the Knobster. So let's take us back to daylight, and I'll just quickly talk you through. This is the one thing with Knobster that I don't particularly like. There's got to be a way around it, which is that it kind of hangs up on the last knob that you've selected, or rotary that you've selected. Let me use different words there. I'm sure there's a way around it. I'm sure somebody's written a little script that just disables it. I must check it out. So essentially here in the rear overhead, it's made up of a couple of instruments. One instrument covers the whole of the background and several elements of the rear overhead panel, including the leading edge device display, the dome light switch, the service interphone, the nose gear repeater. Then I've got a separate gauge that shows covers the IRS. I'm not going to change these knobs because you're going to wind up messing up the IRS and the main EFIS screens, but I must change that very slightly so that it aligns nicely. That's just a bit of OCD there, but that can be done. So you can see everything can be flipped with the Knobster. Because I've got the Knobster enabled, it won't let me mouse press on those knobs as well. The audio selector panel is a separate gauge, and that one is actually, I won't say it's a dummy, but it's tied into the captain's panel because the IXEG only has oh, there we go, that's better. Put it back here. I was just looking at my other screen which has X-Plane on it, and I noticed my EFIS screen's going blank, and it was because I had the display selector on the IRS in test mode. we've got the trip and the date. This is actually on the main gauge that covers the whole background. And if you click on the screws above each number, you can select your trip and date information. As I have standard with all guarded switches, click on the hinge end of the guard and it'll open the guard. When the guard's closed, you'll notice you can't select the switch underneath. When it's open, you can just click on that and then flip it back down. There you go. And buttons all work. I don't think I've got desktop sound enabled. Let me do that actually. Right, we have sound. So we have sound. So now, just to prove that these buttons actually do work. Okay, moving down, then we've got the upper part of the overhead. Every sub panel here is a separate instrument or gauge within Air Manager. So the flight control panel is its own gauge. The generator and standby power panel is its own gauge. The center panel here is its own gauge, and again I have Knobster selected, so you can just flip it around with the Knobster. Standard for guarded switches. Lift up at the hinge end, turn off the battery there it is off. Now if I flip back down, I've got to reset it, haven't I? So turn it back on. Generator's back on. There we go. Nice and simple. Everything works kind of self-explanatory really. A lot of the switches where they're just on or off, just click on them and it'll alternate between them. Where there are multiple options, you can click top, center, bottom just to select. So moving down then, and we'll finish off the overhead panel here. This is the lower the lights panel. Oh, my Knobster just disconnected there for some reason. There we go, it's back on again. I don't know why it disconnected, but it's decided to take a break for a second. Again, everything is either Knobster controlled or mouse controlled. Just one thing to note here, IXEG doesn't have great control of switches where you have to move and hold them. So for example, the APU start, I'll click and hold. I fudged it so you could see there it held for a few seconds, so at least you had a positive visual notification that you had been holding the switch, and you can see there the EGT gauge on the APU is rising, so we've got an APU start. It's one of those little foibles on the IXEG. The other aircraft, the Felis, the FlyJSim, they'll handle it okay. This doesn't, but I've fudged it so it works. Let's get the logo light on. Let's get the strobe light on. Position lights on. Anti-collars on. We'll leave off the wing and wheel well. We've got the bar here to flip all of the landing lights on in one go. Not much else to say really. Fairly standard. If you've used Air Manager, you'll know your way around this panel. So that's it for the overhead. So moving down to the captain's panel on the EFIS cockpit, you'll see that on a 2560 by 1440 screen, a standard aspect ratio screen, that the panel's too big to show in one go. So I've got three ways of tackling that. If I move the mouse to the left of the screen, you'll see the little hand there, and I can just drag the panel up and down as I want. On the right hand side, I just implemented a set of buttons, so I can press for either a top view or somewhere in the middle or down the bottom. That's again nice and quick for when you're flying the aeroplane. And the third way I've done it is I have a click spot in the top left hand corner. That's a dial. If you're mouse only, you can use your mouse to turn it, otherwise you can use the Knobster and just turn it, and you can literally scroll the panel up and down precisely one click at a time, and take it to where you want it. Again, this panel is has night lighting. It doesn't have the panel flood lighting, which I'll probably implement later on, but for now it doesn't have it. Let me just turn down here. The captain's panel lighting is here at the bottom. Again, I've just got to, my OCD's kicking in. I've just got to get these click spots aligned very slightly. Let me just check the background one is okay. That one's fine, and the AFDS flood slightly out, not much. But the panel light, I will change that. I'll get that work. But you can see there that as I turn the knob, the gauges get brighter or dimmer. Now, because of the way IXEG has handled data refs, the captain and first officer panel lighting is independent of what you'll see in X-Plane, so they don't sync. Change this here in Air Manager, and it won't change the lighting in X-Plane, and vice versa. Unfortunately, there's no way around that. If IXEG change their data refs and standardize them all, then great, we'll get that sorted. So let's just bring the panel back up, and we'll change to daytime. Again, everything here is pretty standard. You can click on the markers to test them. Switches, just click. There's the stopwatch going. I haven't got any nav aids set up. Let me do that. I'm just going to do that on the X-Plane page here, just for now, to keep things. Let's 2 and nav 1. So there we go. I could of course tune those using the radios on the center pedestal, but I haven't got that open on this setup at the moment. So here we go. So just standard click. We've got. I use the knob sticks. To me, it's the easiest way to do it. Nose wheel steering is a dummy switch. It moves, but it doesn't do anything within the simulator. But it's there because it's standard fit on most 737 classics, not on the Lufthansa ones, I hasten to add, which is of course what IXEG has based their modelling on. So let me separately turn the auto throttle on, turn it off, and now we've got the warning, disconnect warning, come up here. Click on that. That clicks off. We've got our test switches again. They should be click and hold, but IXEG doesn't quite handle it the normal way. The barrow setting, everything all works with Knobster or click it. So fairly standard there. Now on my panels, for the captain and the first officer side, what I've done is I have incorporated the glare shield and the mode control panel so that it's there and easy for you to access. One click, there's a bar along the top of the screen there, brings it up from a captain's perspective. Second click, first officer view. Third click clears it, or just 2 clicks clear it. And the reason I've done it that way is because if your master caution lights up, it could be that the caution is on the first officer's side, and of course if you only see it from the captain's perspective, the captain's side, you won't see that. So that's the reason I've done that. A couple of quick notes about the glare shield. I'll just talk about it here. This is of course the glare shield set up for an EFIS equipped aeroplane with the newer style mode control panel. Just show you, I can get the clock controlled, the stopwatch controlled from the clock button. The course knobs and the altitude knob are split. If you're using your mouse, you've got an outer knob an outer dial. I keep calling them knobs. I should say dial really. maybe it's because I'm watching too many or looking at too much stuff on Facebook of bad parking and people getting called every name under the sun. So dial, I will call it. Got an outer dial which will change the course in steps of 10, and we've got an inner dial which will change the course in steps of 1, or in the case of the altitude, steps of 1,000, steps of 100. If you've got a knobster, then you can just change in steps of 10. Speed and heading are just simple dials. They are straight commands. Don't spin or click too quickly, or it just confuses X-Plane 12. But if you move it in a deliberate fashion, then it works. So there we go, that's the captain's panel, fairly explanatory. The main thing was scrolling and the fact that on my panels I have the glare shield set up to display if you want it to. As I say, most users seem to prefer to make their own custom panels that fit their screens, their aspect ratios, the way the cockpit's laid out, and that's brilliant. So please feel free to take mine and hack them around to suit your own needs. Just one thing I will say actually, and this applies to all panels, the scrolling function is actually controlled by a gauge. It's an invisible gauge, it fills the whole screen. You don't see anything, there's no imagery associated with it. It is called scroll, panel scroll, and you'll see it. There's a captain panel scroll, there's a first officer panel scroll, a centre mid panel scroll. You will see that, and that is the gauge that you will need to edit. So that, for example, you might only want to use the knobster scroll, or you might only want to use buttons for a positive repositioning of the panel imagery. That is the file to use, and you can either take things out or edit them to suit your own particular requirements. There we go, that's the captain side. I'm not going to talk about the first officer side. It pretty much mirrors this, so I'm not going to waste your time looking at that. Right, so onto the center main instrument panel. At the moment this is set to working on mouse, so I'll leave it on that because it gives you an opportunity to show it without the knobster. So there's the scroll dial on the top left, standard. You can drag the panel up and down, or you can just literally just click on the right hand side and hey presto, it'll take you up or down. Again, all pretty self-explanatory. Not too much to say about this. It all kind of functions pretty much the same way as the rest. Now, one thing I will say, actually two things I'll say. The night lighting on this panel is controlled from the captain side. In order to get this lit at night, you need to have, at some point in time in this operating session, you will need to have set the captain's lighting. You'll see, because I actually had the captain's panel open before, and that panel has sent an internal air manager variable around the system. You'll see that it's remembered that, and it's remembered, hey, I've got captain's lights on. Now I think what I might have done is I might have set the captain's lighting to a kind of mid position just as default, but you will have to have the captain's light switch open at some stage in order to make sure that the lighting setting value is transmitted around the network. Now I might do something here which actually, I suppose one thing I could do is just put a hidden button or a click spot or something in there that maybe this top screw here on the lighting panel, that if you press it, it actually sets the captain's lights to a mid value. And that way then, for those of you who are only using, for example, this one panel in your cockpit and don't want to have the captain's side open all the time, or open at any stage, then that would let you get night lighting available instantly. There are multiple ways around this. If I close this down, I'll just show you the reason that the knobster's not working on there is because I actually don't have it enabled. So if I highlight that panel, scroll down, and then click on here, Knobster A, I've only got one knobster. Now if I open that panel up, if I click on there, you'll see that the knobster is enabled, so now I can use that. Right, we'll close that down. That's the centre minute. We're almost there. Hopefully you're still with us, you're not falling asleep. And we'll go to the EFIS pedestal. Stream is in there because the CDUs that I've used in this panel are using the streamed displays. If I actually get round to finalising the CDU versions which are made entirely within a manager, I won't need that. So I'll enable the knobster because it's easier to use it. I'll open that up. There we go. So 3 screens for the pedestal. In fact, I haven't got the knobster scroll dial in the top left hand corner here because again it is much easier to just have positive. So on this panel I have it set that you can go cycle the screens up or cycle the screens down. Again, night lighting here. The lights on the Air Manager pedestal are synced to the lights in X-Plane. So change one, you'll change the other. Not too much to say here again, it's all fairly standard. I do dislike that knobster thing. I do dislike that knobster thing. There we go, just click on the small. But there has to be a way around it. But just click on buttons. There we go for the CDUs. Knobster control on all the comms frequencies. Not a lot to say really. The HF unit is a dummy unit. You can change the frequency, you can change the settings. Let's put it to upper sidebands. There we go. Lower sideband, or AM. Normally be upper sideband, I think, is what's used. And it is a dummy unit, but it's in there because most of the 73300s had an HF unit installed, and at some stage, who knows, it might be incorporated into X-Plane. So there we go. That's it. I'm not going to waste any more time. You can mess around with these panels to your heart's content. You shouldn't break anything. The worst that can happen is that the panel shuts down, or a manager shuts down, and you just start it up again, and away you go. Right, that's it. Enough chitter chatter about panels. I hope this gives you a bit of an overview. Thanks for watching.